life lately has really been picking up because the weather is getting nicer and spring is just around the corner, and I feel like we're all kind of coming out of our hibernation and really excited to like see each other and make all the plans. And while I do love doing all of those things and seeing everybody, I feel like at the same time the introvert in me starts to like freak out a little bit because it feels like too much too fast. So then I just want to like run away to my cozy corner. So for the next few days we actually have some pockets of downtime, and I want to use those little pockets to just kind of get myself recharged. And the best way to do that is just do some of my cozy comforts, like all of my bookish things. I have some new books that I want to show you guys, maybe organize this study a little bit. I also need to clean out my annotation supplies drawer because I'm working on a new video for annotating, and just all those little book things. And then I also want to focus on some cozy hobbies, just some really good quiet time to do some mindful things, and then also just make some more meals and have some quiet moments. And I feel like all of these things will really help me kind of recharge before the next set of social plans kind of kick in. Breakfast is all done. I'm gonna sit and enjoy this, and then I think we'll go do some bookish things. I need to organize some books, do a book haul, give a book update, all the good book things. So let me eat this first and then we will get into book things. These are some of the new books that I've gotten recently, so I thought we could do a quick little book haul. These are kind of a combination of books that I have gotten delivered, which I've been waiting on, and then also a few books that I picked up at the bookstore recently when I visited a couple of weeks ago. The first one here I have is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I have heard nothing but great things about this book. I think from the cover you think it's going to be like a typical rom-com, but I don't think that's the case with this one. I think this one has quite a unique take to it. So it's about this girl who moves into her aunt's apartment, and the apartment seems to be magical because she runs into a man in her apartment who is actually from 7 years ago, and she's living 7 years in the future. I have no idea how this works. I don't even understand the like science behind that or the magic, but they are apparently living 7 years apart but do find an attraction to one another, and I assume fall in love. I don't know how that's gonna work if you're not living in the same time period, so I'm really interested in reading this book, if not for anything else than just to figure out how she wrote this story 7 years apart with two characters. It kind of reminds me of that movie, was it The Lake House with like Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves? It's giving very much those kinds of vibes. The next book I have is the new Tessa Bailey book. This is Fangirl Down. I have an interesting relationship with Tessa Bailey books. One of my favorite rom-com books is It Happened One Summer. That book will forever stay with me. I just thought it was so cute and so well written, but then everything after that was just not my favorite. And so I don't know why I keep going back to her books, but for some reason I do always want to give them a chance. And so this one looked quite interesting. It's a sports rom-com. In this one we have, what is her name? Her name is his name is Wells, and her name is Josephine. And Josephine is Wells' biggest fan. Wells is a golfer, and he has been playing really terribly lately, but because she's his #1 fan, she's always on the sidelines cheering him on, wishing him well, telling him to keep going. And I think in this one there is some forced proximity because Wells offers her the chance to be his new caddy and to help him with his golf game and to get him back on track because she does have some golf expertise. And so she agrees to do that, and while they're on the road in these forced proximity situations, I think of course an attraction builds and they get to know one another and uncover all of these layers to each other. So this just sounds really, really cute. A good read for spring, I think, when I go on vacation, just like something light and easy breezy. We'll see what happens. It's always a toss-up with me when it comes to Tessa Bailey, but for one reason or the other, I keep coming back and I keep buying her book, so hopefully this one doesn't disappoint. The next book I have is the Ali Hazelwood book, Bride. That's also been all the rave right now. This is kind of her first take into like fantasy, I believe. Traditionally, of course, she writes a lot of romances that I have enjoyed. I haven't read all of them, but I do like the way she writes and tells stories. I think they are, cute. This one is a marriage of convenience, which is like one of my favorite tropes in romance novels, and it's between a werewolf and a vampire. I mean, talk about fantastical elements. I think that's going to make it really interesting. I don't really need to know much more than that. That's kind of typically how I like to go into fantasy books, because I just want the world to like unravel around me and the story as well. It just was enough to captivate my attention and to wonder what it's about. So I'm really excited about it. Don't need to know any more details. I think it's going to be a good one. The next book I have here is a middle grade book. I'm so excited for this one. It's called The Troublemakers by Tamsin Merchant. Can we take a second to just look at this cover? It is so, so stunning. I am a huge fan of these books. So this is the third installment of this series. The first one was The Hat Makers and the second one was The Map Makers, both of which I really liked. It's the story of this little girl named Cordelia, and she comes from a magical family of hat makers. And in this world in London where they live, there are all these maker families like the hat makers and boot makers and glove makers, and they all have magical abilities to make their specific item and put magic into those items. So for her family, because they're the hat makers, they can put magical elements into hats, and when a person puts that hat on, they get those abilities. And the first one was about an evil villain on the loose who was trying to take all the magic from all the maker families and kind of just like take over their world. And at the same time, a parallel story was her father, Prospero Hatmaker, had gone missing, and everyone says that he, just got lost at sea and he's gone, but Cordelia doesn't believe that. And so she's both trying to save London from this evil guy and then also find clues to finding her father. I found the story to be so fast-paced and so fun. Cordelia is just a lovable character. I also love the hat maker and all the maker families. That whole dynamic was really fun. The sequel was just as cute. I really enjoyed that one as well. They didn't think there was going to be a third book, but she decided to put one out, and I'm so glad she did, because I think this one leaves London and they go on a seafaring adventure. So I am really, really excited about this one. I hope I can get to it during middle grade March, because that just would be so poetic. The next three books I have here are the Boys of Tommen series, and these are actually the new covers. I do have the books in the old covers, and like everybody else, because they have people on them, I don't love them as much. The books are also really chunky, and the print on the inside is really, really small, so it makes it really hard to read. So these are a little bit easier to hold. And first of all, the flop factor. When I tell you this is the floppiest book I have ever held, if flop factor means something to you, then you should get these books. But the number 2 reason you should get these books is because they are actually so incredible. I did a reading vlog on this first one last year, and it shows all of my emotions if you want to watch it, of just me kind of going through the wild ride that is this world. I will say, and I said it in that video, these books are not for everybody. If you don't enjoy like serious, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, really tragic things, then these books are not for you. They're not lighthearted. They're definitely not rom-coms. They're not your typical stories. They do have some really triggering items in them, and the characters go through a lot. But if that's something you like to read, and you like to read really layered stories, then these books are for you. I haven't read the second set of books. So the first 2 books are Johnny and Shannon. I have read those, loved both of them, gave them 5 stars. The second set of books, the next 2, Saving 6 and Redeeming 6, that's about a different set of characters. It's actually a prequel to the first 2 books. And then the next character that's being written about is coming out in April. So it is my goal, hopefully over the next couple of weeks, to read Joey's story, which is book 3 and book 4, before book 5 comes out in April, so that I can be caught up in this whole world. So these are the books that I've gotten recently. I'm really excited to have like a variety. I feel like I've been going through phases recently where I'll just read a ton of fantasy and then I'll read a ton of romance. And so I've been kind of going back and forth, and I've also recently been reading a lot of middle grade. And so I just always like to have some new options. I'm such a mood reader. You never know what I'm going to pick up. And that's why, you know, I just like having kind of that variety on my shelf. So I think what I'm going to do now, before I give you a reading update on the 3 books I'm currently reading, is just try to find some space on these shelves for these books. It's one of my least favorite things to do, because while the shelves look beautiful and I love them so much, these are like my prized possessions, it is such a pain sometimes to get books onto them and to like shuffle things around and move things here and there. But let's give it a try and see what happens. So somehow I did manage to find some space on those shelves magically. I have no idea where the space came from, but when I was looking at my shelves, I feel like I'm craving some change. They have been in that rainbow formation for so long, ever since we've kind of moved into this place. It's been a couple of years, and I feel like I'm craving some change. So I think in one of my upcoming vlogs, when I do my spring refresh, I might actually change them completely and put them by genre, put series together, group, you know, my TBR pieces. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I can definitely feel like a change coming. But I thought I would sit now. I have done quite a few things this morning, and I thought I would just take a few minutes to read a little bit. And I wanted to tell you about the 3 books that I've been reading recently. I always, for some reason, have multiple books going at the same time. I don't know why. This is just a part of my personality. I don't think I can change it now. It is what it is. And so I always have like quite a few at the same time that are of different genres, just because my mood is kind of all over the place, so I never know what I'm going to want to read. The first one I have is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is of course the sequel to Divine Rivals. I love that book from last year. It was such a good read. This one, I'm about 50% in. I have been annotating it, but I have not been enjoying it as much. I mean, the writing is still really nice. She writes very lyrically. It's very easy to read, even though it is lyrical, but I just haven't been having as much fun as the first one. And that might be because the romance is not as heavy in this. It's a little bit more focused on the war that's going on and some of the lore and the history and background with the gods that are fighting. So hopefully the second 50% picks up. The next book I have is called Mixed Up. This one was on my middle grade list for this month, and I have really been enjoying it. It's only been about a fourth of the way through. But this story is about two boys who are from completely different parts of town. They don't know each other, but both of them are having the same experience, which is they're starting to lose some of their memories and then also gain memories that are not theirs. So it feels like somebody else's memories are coming into their mind and they are living them so vividly. So it's like this really strange phenomenon that's happening to both of them. I'm really interested to see what happens. It's actually been quite a lot of fun to read and kind of funny as well, like very humorous. And then the last book I have is on my Kindle. I like to keep this next to my bedside table because I've actually been finding that recently when I read lighthearted rom-com stories right before bed, which Kindle Unlimited has a ton of them, it's actually been helping me sleep a little bit better. So if you struggle with falling asleep or staying asleep, then I would recommend maybe keeping like a lighthearted rom-com next to your bed, something not heavy, something really easy and light and fun to read, and just reading a couple of chapters of that every night. So that's what I've been doing. Recently, I've been reading Sophie Lark's book, Love Contract. This is a fake dating trope. It's about two people who are trying to better their situations in life. Both of them are struggling and they kind of come up with this contract to do some fake dating to kind of convince her boss to give them this new project that would benefit both of them. So because they're fake dating, they're kind of always, you know, in a forced proximity situation. I love all of those kinds of tropes. It's very lighthearted, it's cute. It had some deeper bits to it to fill in the backstory, but nothing too crazy and nothing too heavy, which is why it's such a good read to have next to your bedside before bed, because I don't feel like I need to stay up till 2 in the morning to finish it. It's just something easy to read right before I fall asleep. It's reading very 3 stars, but I'm not looking for it to change my life. It's just a bit of lightheartedness to help me unwind before going to bed. I think for now I'm going to plug away at Mixed Up. This is a short book, so I really kind of want to finish it either today or tomorrow. So I'm going to sit and read that for a bit, and then we will go make a cozy meal. a few hours to myself today, so I thought it would be the perfect time to do a cozy hobby. And my latest obsession has been the little crochet woobles kits. These are like beginner friendly crochet kits, and I've made 2, and so now I'm like kind of addicted to them. So I thought I would sit and do this morning, but I actually woke up quite anxious today. I don't know what that feeling is, maybe because we're about to go into like a new set of social plans, and it always makes me a little bit anxious about seeing tons of people and being out and about. Even though it's like I love it, I still get really anxious. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but because I'm feeling that way, I don't think I can do something where I have to like concentrate really hard. So the woobles might have to wait a little bit. But if I feel a little better later, maybe I'll pick it up. I think what I'm gonna do instead is just sit and color. Coloring is like a really mindful, quiet way to like settle your mind. Like I feel like when I'm coloring and I have music on, it really just turns everything off, and sometimes that's what I need. It's like the voices in your head that are making you anxious and thinking about things and just ruminating on thoughts. Sometimes I just need them to quiet down a little bit and just give me a minute and like a little break, and coloring is the best way, at least for me, to do that. So I'm gonna sit and color for a little bit, and then later I actually think I do want to do something productive, even though it's kind of like my off day. And I think what I will do is clean out my annotation supplies drawer. I said yesterday that I was working on a new video about annotating for like first timers, people who haven't annotated their very first book, and I realized my supplies drawer is like quite a hot mess. So I got these little trays to help organize all my tabs and things. So we'll do that a little later after I've like had some quiet moments to like reset my mind a little. It is a little bit later now. I'm feeling a little bit more chilled out and relaxed after just having some quiet alone time. And I think what I want to do now is attempt to clean out this annotation supplies drawer. It is quite a mess in here. There's all sorts of tabs and washi tape, and I got these little translucent post-it notes. There's all sorts going on in here. And what I did was just get these 3 metal trays. I've been trying to get rid of plastic in our home recently. I had like a freak out about microplastics. So I'm gonna try out these little plastic trays and see if that helps kind of keep things a little bit more tidy. All 3 of these drawers are actually quite a mess. So if I like the way these look and I like the way that they're able to kind of keep things separate, then maybe we will do it to all of the drawers. But I wanted to do a trial run first. And I think what I'm gonna do is actually take these loose tabs and maybe some of the ones in the packages and take all the individual tabs off of the ruler and just put them in here individually. And then when I start a new book and I start annotating, I think I'm just gonna make my own color combinations. I've seen some people do that and it actually seems like a lot of fun because the preset tabs they do make sense and the color schemes are quite nice, but I do find that I often will try to take one off or two off if I don't like the colors or I don't want them. So I thought, why not just create my own when I start a new book and see how that goes for a while. I'm not going to do all the tabs. There's quite a few packages in there just in case this turns out to be a horrible idea and I have to like undo it, then at least I won't undo all of them. So I'm going to do some, see how we go, see how we feel, and if I like it, then we can always add the others in there. So let's get organized. I actually really love that they have this grip at the bottom so it won't slide around in the drawer. That actually is very smart. I'm not fully convinced this is gonna be a good idea. Like they're just kind of loose in here and I don't know how I feel about that. Like, should I try to stack them? Oh gosh, and they're starting to get a little sticky. How did the girl before do it? Because she just had this like loose pile of them. I don't know. How do you keep them from like being sticky with each other? It's okay. I guess I could just like, you know, they're not like completely stuck together. I could just like take them off as I need. Like they come off pretty easily. And if they get stuck, I could just like remove them. It's not that bad. Let's keep going. I said I would give this a try, so let's give it a proper try. I'll just do these loose ones. All of these ones that are like in the packages, I have quite a few of them. I'm just gonna keep them like this and see how I go with these because I'm not fully convinced yet. So let's leave these babies alone for now and just do this much and then we'll see what happens. This is what the drawer is looking like right now. On the left here, I have all this washi tape. I don't think it's going to stay there. When I reorganize some of these other drawers and I make like a scrapbooking type drawer, then I think that's where those will move. But for now, I just put them in there. And then these are all the individual tabs. Again, I'm not fully convinced this was a great idea, but I'm going to try it out for a little while and just see what happens. And if they start to get really strange over time and really stuck together, then maybe we just need to put them back on the rulers. But I don't mind the completely kind of chaotic look. It makes it a little fun and gives it some character, rather than just having them on these plastic rulers. And then this is that translucent round paper that I found to put in books. The problem is I just can't find the right pens to write on them. They're actually quite fun and I would love to like annotate with fun things like that, like little rounds instead of just sticky paper all the time. But again, I'm having trouble finding a pen that works on translucent sticky notes. So if you know of one, please comment it below. This over here on the right are all of the extra tabs I have. I'm going to leave these alone in the packages so that we don't really bother them in case this idea over here is a terrible idea over time. Then at least I have all of these intact. And then these are the empty rulers where I can make my new annotations with whatever colors I want. And yeah, I'll give that a go for the next book that I annotate. I'm just going to create my own kind of color system and see what happens. But at least this is a first step. I am fully aware that things evolve. My study has changed a million times. These drawers will change a million times, but I am really glad I got these metal trays. I think I'm going to get some more because they do feel like good quality material. And I love the non-slip bottom like I showed earlier. Those are really cool. So I'm going to get a few more of these, put some more in here and in the other two drawers. And yeah, I love them. I love that. At least there's a little bit more order than there was before, which is a success story on its own.